Hi, I'm Karen McGregor, founder of the Speaker Success Formula, and today I am so excited to be on the Inspiring Show with Paul Henczel.
Welcome to the Inspiring Show with Paul and Jennifer Henczel, featuring inspiring interviews with thought leaders, storytellers, entrepreneurs, influencers, and legacy builders just like you. Learn from experts about finding your voice, mastering your mindset, and creating movements with your message. Tap into timeless wisdom and today's top strategies for transcending to new levels of success, happiness, and joy.
I'm Paul Henczel from The Inspiring Show. Now, I'm excited for today's guest, Karen McGregor. When I first met Karen, Jen was having her speak at one of her Inspired Influencers events. And when we saw her full talk, we said to each other, we've got to work with her. Karen really walks her talk and models in her life what she teaches. Karen is very heart-centered and gets results not only for herself, but her clients. I've used her strategies and they really work. She's amazing. Karen McGregor is a best-selling author, international speaker, coach, trainer, and the founder CEO of the Speaker Success Formula. As a speaker, she has graced the stage with Deepak Chopra, Laurel Langmeyer, Brendan Burchard, Marcy Shimoff, Tony Robbins, and other world influencers. As a trainer, coach, and lead facilitator of the Speaker Success Formula, Karen attracts a wide range of clients from Olympic athletes, health experts, elite artists, coaches, finance to real estate experts, and also authors. Karen is a premier monetization specialist dedicated to helping conscious entrepreneurs spread their messages, sell their products or services, and transition into successful speakers. Karen knows how to inspire and educate entrepreneurs to navigate through speaking business uncertainties to arrive at success. Karen gives great tips and some benefits of speaking. So sit back and enjoy my interview with Karen McGregor.
Thank you, Karen, so much for joining me today. I've been looking forward to this for years, ever since we planned on doing a podcast. You have been such an inspiration and a motivator to Jen and I. Also, for me, you have been a teacher, a coach, a mentor, and a friend. I have learned so much from you, and you have really helped me to get where I am today. So thank you, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you as our guest today.
Oh, you're welcome. And it's such an honor to see you grow and create this beautiful podcast for so many people to be inspired by.
Thanks, Karen. All right, I'm looking forward to hearing everything. I have heard your story multiple times. It gets me every single time. So could you please go right in and share your story with our listeners?
For sure, yes. Well, as many of you know now, I have a successful company helping entrepreneurs to be able to speak and sell on stage. And my story is really about the great struggles that I went through to be able to effectively and impactfully speak and sell on stage. I was, at the time, I remember, very young kids, and I was really struggling trying to figure out this whole business and trying to figure out why is it that I can't seem to get ahead, and every time I would try to do a talk and run a workshop, it just wasn't working for me, both in terms of feeling like I created the impact, but also monetizing so that I had money coming in.
Yeah.
At that point, unfortunately, my husband and I parted ways. And I remember, when his moving truck was backing out of the driveway the day that he moved out of our home, and just saying to myself as I watched that truck, drive away, that our lives would never be the same again. And, even to this day, it really chokes me up to remember that moving truck driving away. And what I do, recall more than anything is the fear that I had really about what was I going to do? How was I going to survive? How would I provide for my kids and myself, and mortgage and payments and all of that? And my lawyers made the fear worse, because when I sat down with them, the next day, they said, well, Karen, you're smart, you have your grad degree, go back and get a real job. This is clearly not working for you. And on paper, Paul, I thought, okay, they are right. But in my heart and my soul, I knew that they were wrong. And I knew that I had to do something, something different, but something to keep going, because going back to a job was just not in the cards for me. And so moving on from there, I had an amazing opportunity to speak at an event where lots and lots of my peeps, those people that understood me and got me, and that they were going to be in the audience, 3,000 of them. And I thought, oh, this is my opportunity to launch my business and forever be successful.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of us have thought that before about one single event, right?
Yep.
And so to prepare for that event, instead of thinking about how can I structure my talk and my offer to be really strong, so that I could impact lots of people, and lots of people would be buying the programs, products, services that I had. I had 4 programs actually at the time. And so what happened was that, because I spent so much time focusing on being a better speaker and just having the delivery go so well, I didn't put any attention on the business part of speaking. And so after that, 3,000 people left giving me hugs. I always joke, hugs, but no credit cards.
Yeah.
And as business owners, we need both, right? Otherwise, we don't have business. So I went home. I was absolutely devastated. I'd sold a few books, but books, you typically earn $1 or $2, and certainly that wasn't enough to cover my expenses that month. And so I went home, had a good cry. My kids asked me how it went, and I said to them, guys, our lives are going to change forever. Because I had it with, just saying to myself, oh, I can figure this out. I know I needed help. And so I got 5 different people, and let me be very clear, I couldn't afford those 5 people, but I jumped into it because I thought, if I can figure out a way to do this from my heart and speak and sell in a way that is integral to me, and really aligned with who I am as a very heart-based person, then I think I can do this for a living. And so that's exactly what happened. So I took everything I learned, threw out a lot of stuff that wasn't in alignment with me, and created my own program, which is called Rock the Stage. And many people in Western Canada and in California are very familiar with it. And that was almost 10 years ago now. So it's been quite the journey.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I love to share my story, because I feel that, many of us have been there, where we tell ourselves we're smart and we know, we can figure it out.
Yeah.
But until we get that structure and system in place, it's very difficult to expand and have that success.
Well, it's understanding, like for you, sharing your story, and it gets me every single time. The difficulties that were present, but then, having that persistence and confidence and patience to realize the goal that you had.
Yes. Yeah. And it is, there's lots of, within the structure, when I first started, I saw the potential, because I saw some results. And then I went back and I tweaked it, and I saw more results, and then times when I'm stupid and don't follow my own system, then of course you also see the lack of results, right?
Yeah.
And so over time, I just realized, wow, here's something that really works. And if I use it over and over with different audiences, of course, then I really only need one talk that's very inspiring. And so I want to encourage anyone who's listening to consider that you really only need one talk for your business and perhaps one talk for your inspiring part of your speaking, which Paul is so wonderfully adept at.
Well, thank you,
And
Karen.
and it's something that I experienced in my TED Talk as well. It's a different kind of speaking. But the good news is, you have one powerful story. You can tell it over and over and over again, can't you, Paul?
For sure. And now you have an absolute fantastic signature talk, which I've heard you deliver multiple times. So what's the title of that talk?
It's called How to Triple Your Income Through Speaking. Sometimes some people may see it appear as, how to master and monetize your message.
Yep.
There's a few different titles, but essentially the good news is for anyone listening is you can have, multiple titles. You can have a little bit of a tweak for perhaps a different audience. Sometimes, for instance, I speak to mothers who are CEOs, or I might speak to a nonprofit. So you do tweak your slides a little bit. But the good news is you just have that one solid talk. And people ask me, why are you so good at it? Well, it's because I focus on that one thing. And the way to mastery, I believe, is to do something over and over, look at your results, tweak it, get better, get more confident. And I think it makes a big difference.
Totally. Now, I mean, I can attest, I've heard your talks. Like I said before, you coached me on my TED Talk.
Yep.
And, doing my own brand of signature talk, but you've really helped me write and speak more effectively. But one thing about you, Karen, and you mentioned this before, you are very heart driven, and that comes out in everything you do. And you're very intuitive as well. So I think having a signature talk, you need that component as well. You really need to, I'm sure I want you to share on that, elaborate more on that about, being heart driven and serving your audience.
Yeah.
And not just making it about you, right?
Yes, and one of the things that I always say when people are starting to write their signature talk, and of course that's what we help people with in Rock the Stage, is to really look at, rather than asking yourself, what do I want to speak about, which is usually the main question that people have. It's more about what are the needs of the people that you want to speak to.
Yeah.
So really identifying what is it that they really need support with, that you have the expertise on, that can take them from where they are to where they want to be. And when you structure your talk that way, then there's always going to be, people appreciating, people buying, people, wanting to learn more. And then I think the other thing, Paul, is around value. I always say, don't be afraid to give a lot of value.
Oh, yeah.
Because many people don't. They're afraid, if I give too much value, I won't have any clients and they won't see any need to work with me. And the reality is, you can speak for a whole day and still have lots of clients that want to work with you. It's just that the way that you position your content sometimes doesn't allow people to see that, oh yes, I do actually need that help. I need that process, and it's not a good thing to do it alone.
Yeah,
because
for
for most people it's not. We all know that. Even myself, pretty smart lady, I couldn't figure many things out in business by myself. I had to learn it from someone, and why not learn it from someone who's doing it at a high level rather than your Uncle Joe who says, hey, I got some advice for you.
Yeah, for sure. Totally.
Yeah.
So could you share some tips, how can people benefit from speaking and how they can incorporate that into their business?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, like I said, speaking is, there's many types of speaking, but the one that I want to focus on today with all of you is, if you're thinking of starting a business or you've had a business for quite a while, I highly recommend that you go out and you do things like spotlight speaking, which is, sometimes you get 2 minutes, sometimes you get 5 minutes. Starting with that, you still need a structure though. So I always say, don't just go out and think, well, it's only 2 minutes, I'll wing it. Not a good idea, right? So every time you open your mouth, you want to be able to represent your company in a way that people say, wow, this person is an expert and I need what they have to offer. So I think that's, that would be my biggest source of advice is really don't wing it. Make sure that you have a structured talk that really works, right?
Yeah.
I think the other thing is many talks you might only have 20 minutes or you might have 30 minutes. And in that case, I always say, don't try to sell anything. I even laugh sometimes when I go to networking events and somebody's trying to sell me something while they're talking to me and pushing their business card on me. We all know how good that feels, right?
Yeah.
Or they're on the stage, and they've got 5 minutes to speak and they're selling something. And that's to me so ridiculous because you haven't actually positioned yourself as an expert. They don't know your story. They don't know anything about you. So why would they be interested automatically to purchase something from you? Yeah. So the tip that I really think is important for everyone to know is when you have a well-structured short talk like that, so let's say it's 20 minutes or even 30 minutes, you always want to, rather than offering something on the stage, you want to deliver a gift that would be directly applicable to taking the next step with you. So in my case, if I'm only speaking for 20 minutes, I will let people know, hey, we're going to have a live webinar just for this group. And here's the details. Come and see me at my table, to get registered for that. And that way people are still seeing my full talk and they really understand and realize, oh, this is what speaking's all about. It's not just what I thought it was, which was, most people think it's just visibility. And so I would say, for those people who, Paul, are listening that might say, yeah, I don't really have opportunities to sell. Well, everybody is welcome to offer a gift, otherwise really they should be paid to speak. If they can't do either, they should be paid. And that leads me to paid speaking. So paid speaking is another option for all of you. The difference is that with paid speaking, you are not offering your program, product, or service. Mm-hmm. And so the corporation, if they want more from you, of course, that would be a one-to-one discussion. So it's a very different type of speaking because you're mainly speaking to train or speaking to inspire or, perhaps like yourself, Paul, you're very funny. People want to laugh, right? They just want to be entertained, right?
Yeah.
And you can be paid for that. So that is another form of speaking. And then I'd say, the last form of speaking is to tell your story, which is something that you are training people in and that, you and Jen have really developed this whole company around is the importance of telling your story. And I think that, when we look at TEDx and we look at Bill and we look at, Roger Killen's Get Inspired. There's so many different avenues now. I think there's one in Calgary that's coming to Vancouver. It's called Women Talks.
Oh yeah.
There's so many that are focusing now more on people's story because it's through story that we get inspired, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, if people are looking to inspire, they're looking to perhaps even start a movement. They're looking to, rally the troops around a cause, perhaps. There's nothing more powerful than a story to situate that around. And so, with Story Academy, I love what you guys are doing, because that whole aspect of speaking is really necessary and needed. So I would say that there's three types. That there's that one, the inspire, and telling your story. There's the corporate and, government institutions that need trainers and they need speakers on certain topics. And then there are the entrepreneurs who go out and they craft a talk where they have an offer or indirect gift to offer. And that's what I specialize in with Rock the Stage and Speaker Success Formula. So so I hope that gives a little bit of a, umbrella and understanding for people who are out there listening today.
Oh, totally. What I get out of that is you first need to connect with your audience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you want to sell something to them, you have to make that connection first.
Exactly. Yes.
And you really want, when you have a shorter talk, and like you said, you don't recommend selling when you have a shorter talk because you want to build that connection first, is leaving people wanting to know more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's the thing too, is so many of us want to share absolutely everything in terms of, in 5 minutes, here's everything that I offer.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas people, it's kind of like dating in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't want to go on a second date if everybody just blurts out their entire life's history to you and asks you, to go out on a 10-hour hike the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. So could you tell us more about Rock the Stage and like where you hold these, because you hold them in different cities, right?
Right. Thank you for asking. Yes. So Rock the Stage is a 3-day live event, and it's actually designed to help entrepreneurs to build their talk that sells. And if you can't sell, we also help you to build your talk and to have that next step that allows you to sell when you're not allowed to sell. So, you've got the 3 steps instead of 1 step, but we teach you how to do that as well. So that live event, and also besides the design of the talk, there's the delivery. We do talk about really powerful ways to be present to your audience, to be authentically present. And there's nothing more powerful than that. So I help people, as Paul said, with intuition, through my intuition, to see perhaps what blocks are stopping them from being a powerful speaker. And then I help them to really get speaking gigs. So those are the 3 elements: the delivery, the design of the talk, and getting your speaking gigs. How do you actually do that? What do you say? What do you have to have in place? So you asked about the location. So we have in Abbotsford and in Calgary 2 different Rock the Stages, and we hold them twice a year in both locations. So right now we have 2 coming up, one in Calgary at the end of April and one beginning of May 1st to 3rd in Abbotsford. So anybody listening, you can just contact me on speakersuccessformula.com for more information, and I'll be happy to connect with you there.
And I want to add, they're fantastic programs. You cover so much and really learn a lot from that. So yeah, well done.
Well, Paul is one of my star students, He really just rose to the top despite all of his pain that he was in. And, I just remember, Paul, the first time that you came to us and how much pain you were in and not even realizing it until you told me. And, I knew there was something that was bothering you, but I didn't know the extent of your, injuries and that kind of thing. So it was so admirable to see you go from not having a signature talk to having a full-fledged talk and offering your Story Academy and putting that all together, and then also speaking to corporate, with with your inspiring story and then doing the TEDx talk. I mean, you've done so much. So I'm so glad you're delivering this podcast. You're the perfect person to talk about inspiring, you know?
Well, thank you. And this is exactly why I had you as a guest, Karen, because you're perfect to talk about that as well. I mean, really, to me, having such a great teacher, you know, it's easier to open up and share your story, you know, when you have someone like yourself who's very heart driven. So
Well,
thank you.
thank you. I think one of the blends that I've been able to develop over the years is the intuition in the heart, along with the systems and structures.
Yes.
So I feel that's why I'm a great trainer, you know, in Rock the Stage, because people say, you know, it's one of the most powerful programs they've been to, but I believe it's because of that. It's that combination. And
Yes.
you know, you responded so beautifully to that. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. So now you have a new book coming out. This is a pretty big year for you, isn't it, Karen?
Oh boy, is it ever. I am so thrilled to have my book being launched. It has nothing to do with speaking, but it is about influence. So, of course, speaking and influence are naturally connected.
Yeah.
This one, however, is more of a spiritual and personal development book. It's called The Tao of Influence. So it infuses the Tao Te Ching, which is a 4,000-year-old Chinese philosopher. Lao Tzu wrote it. It's 4,000 years old. And it really is about how to be an influencer, not necessarily what you do, although what you do is certainly important,
Yeah.
but really how to that influencer in a time when we take that word so lightly, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's about present. How do you be present to people? You know, how do you navigate your power when you're stressed?
Oh,
You know, all the different things that we do when we're in fear. How do we go from our love, which is the greatest power, to this distorted power where we act all weird, don't we, when we get into fear?
oh, totally. Yeah.
And so I help people really identify that and then move through the different pillars. I have 4 pillars of influence. So there's also, you know, present. So the power, the presence, then moving on to purpose, and last to potential. So it's a great book. I'm very proud of it. You know, I've written 2 other books, but this one is the most meaningful to me because it's very, very deep. And when people get it, you know, their whole world, their whole mindset, and the way that they function in the world and be an influencer can change. So, yeah, so that's going to be launched June 16th.
Oh,
And
nice.
we'll have about 2 or 3 weeks of, you know, the big launch, and
Yeah.
we're looking to do New York Times bestsellers. So, you know, we've got big goals in place.
I have no doubt you'll reach that. I am looking forward to that book, Karen. So
Thank you so much, Paul.
now, would you be able to just share, like, what was the inspiration for you behind that book?
Yeah, you know, it was a really long time coming. It was probably about 5 years now of really thinking about, especially after my dad died, you know, about what is true influence and what is it that creates the sustainable, long-lasting legacy of influence. Is what we see politically right now in our climate and all the celebrities. It's all a bunch of, you know, loud, I don't know, almost meaningless, you know, influence, because it's pushed by fear, it's pushed by external, you know, things that aren't important.
Yeah.
And so I just really started to feel into that. And I took a few trips to Italy, as you know, which
Mm-hmm.
were really, really important to my understanding of deepening this whole idea of how do we get to being influential as well as doing it. So I've spent my last 10 years helping people, you know, really doing well with speaking. But what I have found is that if people don't have the being part, they can only reach a certain level of influence. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah. Because after 10 years, people still to this day tell me things like, you're the first person who's ever really seen me. You're the first person who's ever understood me or taken that
Yep.
really deep dive into just being present with me. And that almost makes me cry, tear up, because it's so important to me that people understand that we are both, the mystic and the activist. We're the beer and we're the doer.
Yeah.
We're the yogi and we're the corporate, let's get it done kind of person. We
Yeah.
can be all of it, but we actually need to be both. And so I think I'm attempting in this book to marry the two together.
Nice. Sounds awesome. Looking forward to that.
Thank you, Paul.
Well, thanks for sharing all that. So right now, I'd like to dive into our speed round.
Yeah,
So I'm going to ask you 5 quick questions, and then you can just give me the first answer that pops into your head.
for sure.
Okay, first one. So what does Karen McGregor do for fun?
Oh my goodness. Well, I love to go out for walks. I know that's not exciting to most people, but I love to do nature walks and just go and look at the mountains, the ocean, go on walks in the woods. That's my idea of fun.
It is. Jen and I do that. We love it. It's really peaceful.
It
Really.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. I love it.
So next one, what's your favorite quote?
Well, I laughed when you asked me that earlier, and I thought, I would have to say it's a mix between what Lao Tzu says in the Tao and what I say. So I'm just going to merge them together,
Sure.
which is that, there's this philosophy that we all have troubles, we all have challenges. The difference is whether or not you choose to experience them.
Oh,
And this I absolutely love, because when I first heard Lao Tzu say it in his way, I thought, wow, what would my life be like if I could have challenges, but not get, mentally and emotionally sucked in by them? In other words, not to experience them. You're seeing them, you're having them, but you're not choosing that road of getting, a negative mindset and emotions around it.
oh, nice. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And that's part of what my book's about too.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome.
hmm
Who has inspired you the most, Karen?
Oh my goodness. I have so many people that have inspired me. I would have
Yeah.
to say a couple of recent examples. David Wolf, who is, I interviewed him for my book. I really admire David because even though he has 12 million followers, more than Oprah actually on
Wow.
his social media, he will talk to anyone and everyone. He holds no status. There's nothing in him that, would say, I want to spend my time with this person instead of that person. He really loves everyone equally and gives of himself that way. So, that's somebody that I really admire, and I'm inspired by that. And I would also say, for me, my dad is passed, but I always find him to be my source of inspiration because he loved life. He laughed a lot. Even though he died young, he really lived his life fully. And he loved to have, coffee every day with his friends.
Oh, yeah.
Go for like an hour or two every single day. And that inspires me too, because we get so involved in what we're doing that we don't actually live. And so, yeah, those two people.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book, oh my goodness, I would have to say, I'm just looking at my books right now, The Untethered Soul. It's by Michael Singer. If anyone has not read it, please pick it up. It's one of the most profound books, and it shifted my life incredibly, really around how our minds control us instead of us really directing our minds.
Oh,
And he gives some support around that.
nice. So the last quick question, what is a really good tool or resource that you could recommend?
Oh, a good tool or resource. Let me just see. Would that be in business or just in general?
Anything, Karen.
Okay.
You can even be about you.
Well,
About it.
you know what? I met a lovely man and we're dating right now, but I have to tell you that all my single friends, I'm telling them about the app Bumble, which is really kind of cool because Bumble allows you as a woman, especially the women, to reach out first, so you're not getting a bunch of weird stuff coming in from people that you may not necessarily want to hear from.
Yeah.
And it allows you wherever you travel. Like I'm a world traveler. I do a lot of work in different countries and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you actually meet people in that area. So if I go to Peru, I would meet people in Peru. And so
Cool.
I find that it's a really wonderful little tool. I know most people are probably familiar with it, but I wasn't. So I just want to share that with people that it's a fun way to meet new people.
Nice. Awesome. So now I know you briefly touched on it before, but please share with our listeners, how can they connect with you further now?
All right. So you can connect with me at Speaker Success Formula. So one speaker, speakersuccessformula.com, and just go to the contact there. And if you want to learn more about Rock the Stage, or even just about how to speak to monetize what you're doing, there's a wonderful complimentary webinar there right on the homepage, and you can listen to it. And then there's an application to speak with me after that. So that whole process you can find on speakersuccessformula.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Karen. Been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, having our listeners know more about you. You've been so inspirational. So
thank you. And the same with you, Paul. And I can't recommend enough. I hope everybody subscribes to this podcast. I know how deeply important it is to be inspired, because without that, we can have those long, challenging times, and we need that to lift us up and to show us the way, some steps to show us the way.
Awesome. Thanks, Karen.
You're welcome, Paul.
Wow, what a great interview. Karen's story gets me every single time. She really has a great way of drawing people in. So make sure you check the show notes of today's episode for all the links of how you can connect with Karen further and what she offers. So until next time, remember, you have a story and your story matters.